U.S. hegemony, over the world. Unfortunately for the U.S., it is not learning its own lessons. And its lessons are very clear. Over the last 100 years, and perhaps more, the U.S. has won no war in the world. It was walloped in Vietnam. It retreated in a haste. It was humiliated, completely humiliated in Vietnam. It suffered a similar humiliation in Korea and retreated from Afghanistan in a haste. Even in Iraq, after killing close to 2 million people, the U.S. could not establish its hegemony. And these are important lessons that the U.S. should have learned. The citizens of the United States of America need to learn these important lessons. That the U.S. has no capacity to militarily dominate the world. And that such aggression can only lead to severe consequences for the U.S. itself and its citizens. To start with, it is the U.S. taxpayer who is paying for these senseless aggressions. Now, the U.S. taxpayer is paying for these senseless aggressions around the world at a time when national infrastructure in the U.S. is collapsing. The bridges are obsolete, the roads are obsolete, the railway system is obsolete, and so on. Rather than mobilizing American taxpayer resources in improving conditions for the American people, the U.S. administration is spending these resources recklessly on these useless, aggressive maneuvers around the world. Now, it is significant that on Christmas Day, the same U.S. administration launched violent attacks on Nigeria under the pretext of defending Christians against Muslims, a most reprehensible stand to take. Why? We already have our problems here. We are suffering from neo-colonial impositions and so on. We are trying to deal with them. Now you have administrations like the Trump administration also trying to divide us along religious lines and deepen the crisis that we face. The latest report I've heard is that 3 regions in Venezuela have been attacked, including the capital, Caracas. And I'm so angry, so annoyed, because there's no justification whatsoever for this. Here is the U.S. talking about drug smuggling and so on. And these allegations have been denied. As we speak, the U.S. has not been able to provide any proof of the allegations it has made. But if you go into recent history, which is the country in the world which has been engaged in narcotic trade for political purposes? It is the U.S. government. The Contra affair. The Contra affair, where the U.S. decided to use drugs to raise money, to raise resources, to arm rebels in South America, to overthrow progressive governments. Well documented, the evidence is there. When the Contra affair broke out, would it have been legitimate or legal for any country to launch military aggression against the U.S.? Because there was evidence, clear evidence, of U.S. involvement in narcotics, U.S. government involvement in the spread of narcotics and so on. You understand? But you see, the U.S. has miscalculated again, and it's miscalculating all the time. Quite apart from the strike it launched on Nigeria on Christmas Day, it has also blatantly threatened to attack Iran, claiming that demonstrators are being shot at, and that the U.S. will be intervening in Iran on behalf of the demonstrators. What effrontery, what arrogance. What effrontery, what arrogance. Who intervened in the United States when black people were being shot by the police? Who has intervened in the United States to stop the activities of the Ku Klux Klan? Who has intervened in the United States to stop the erection of a social order in which black people, Chicanos, Latinos, and so on, have become perpetual victims of racism and so on? Who is intervening there? Who is intervening in the United States when Christian fundamentalists are wreaking havoc on non-Christian communities and so on? Who is intervening in the United States? Look, what the United States is doing is likely to plunge this world into unprecedented violence, the consequences of which will be grim for everybody, including us. And it is time for all of us, for all progressive forces around the world, for all truly independent governments to take a clear stand against this U.S. aggression against Venezuela and its threatened aggression against Iran, and its efforts to destabilize Nigeria. The government of Ghana has a special responsibility in this matter. And the government of Ghana has a special responsibility in this matter because it has allowed the establishment of a forward operating base of the U.S. Army in Ghana. At least the government of Ghana needs to send a clear message that the territory of Ghana would not be used in any aggression against any country in the world, especially in West Africa. That is a responsibility the people of Ghana must demand on their government. We have to make it clear to the Mahama administration that we would not tolerate the misuse of Ghanaian territory for aggression in any part of the world, and that as quickly as possible, the forward operating base of the U.S. Army, which was established in Ghana under the Akufo-Addo regime, should be dismantled as quickly as possible. That is a legitimate demand that we have to make. Right now, it's important for all forces of progress, all democratic forces around the world, to raise their voices and raise placards in protest against this reckless adventure of the United States in Venezuela. It must be stopped, and it must be stopped through the collective action of progressive forces around the world. We cannot tolerate this. Look, under a false pretext, a pretext provided by the former Prime Minister of the UK, Tony Blair, that Iraq was building weapons of mass destruction and so on. The US invaded Iraq. At the end of the day, 2 million Iraqis were killed. No weapon of mass destruction was found. 2 million Iraqis were killed. 2 million. If an African government had made an intervention in another country, leading to the death of even 100 people, he would be facing the International Criminal Court. If any African leader had behaved the way Tony Blair of Britain behaved, he would have been before the International Criminal Court. The time has come to build a just world, and a just world can only be one in which all citizens are treated equally, regardless of the countries they come from, and regardless of the positions they hold. This U.S. atrocity, this U.S. behavior, aggressive, unjustified behavior, must be condemned in the strongest possible terms, and we must declare our full solidarity with the government and people of Venezuela.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Pratt, for your submission.